Hello, welcome to the Toronto Master Gardeners September 8th meeting. And I have a real pleasure tonight. I've been asked to introduce our first guest at tonight's meeting. For those of you who haven't met the new Director of Horticulture of the Toronto Botanical Garden, you're going to get an opportunity to meet online the new Director, Paul Gellatly. I'll tell you a little bit about him. Paul is a passionate, lifelong horticulturist. Paul is TBG's new Director of Horticulture. Most recently, Paul was the curatorial gardener for one of Canada's largest tropical plant collection at the Toronto Zoo. I had no idea about that. Many online garden lovers may know Paul through his strong online presence as the tattooed gardener, and we'll make sure he shows you some of that. With social media posts reaching over 9 million per month. He is an avid plant collector and rare and unusual plants, in addition to being an experienced hybridizer of daylilies with 18 registrations with the American Hemerocallis Society. So let's welcome Paul Gellatly. Hey,
Hello,
Paul.
how are you?
I am good. So
Good.
do you want to tell the Toronto Master Gardener a little bit more about you? I know you'll be speaking with us in January.
I am.
But we want to introduce you to them.
Sounds great. Hi, thank you so much for welcoming me tonight. It's nice to virtually meet you all. We're at the Toronto Botanical Garden today. I am the new Director of Horticulture here. I've been here since March and actually started right before COVID hit. So it's been a really interesting start to my new job here. In some ways it's been really good. I've had the opportunity to learn the garden and spend a lot of time in the garden without it being too busy. So I've really had the opportunity to sort of get to know what's here and to see the collection that Paul Zammit had left. So it's been really, really nice. We've been really focusing on a lot of different areas in the garden. I'm going to take you around the garden for a couple of minutes today to a few spots in the garden and just talk about the things that we're sort of focused on this year and what we're sort of working towards as the year progresses. Again, thanks so much. So the first place I want to show you, we're in the showcase garden. This is a garden I'm really excited about for next year. This is going to be a trial for new annuals that are coming out. We're partnering with Ball Floral, one of North America's largest seed companies, and they're going to come in and we're actually going to plant some annuals and things ahead of schedule, so you'll have the opportunity to see them and see how they do before they even come out onto the market. So there's going to be various beds through here. Each bed is going to be one of their growers. So we're going to have Selecta, Duman, and some of the other companies that they represent. On this side, we're actually going to do a perennial trial. So perennials that are not quite on the market yet, we're going to have the opportunity to showcase, and you'll be able to see what you want to buy next year and the year after. It's pretty exciting. They've also agreed to potentially give our members a plant from this showcase ahead of schedule, so you'll be able to try it out yourself and a reason to become a member of the TBG. So that's a really exciting thing that's happening in this garden. It's been sort of the same for a few years. It was the President's Choice Showcase Garden, and that was several years ago. So we're actually going to take the material that's in here and we're going to move it into the gardens. So you're going to be able to see this material in our perennial border, in our entry garden, and in our showcase garden. One of the areas that I think the TBG can do better, and we're going to focus on, is our nature walk and our woodland walk. The nature walk highlights native plants and plants that we all can add some to our gardens. So we've spent a lot of time in this area cleaning it up and just sort of making sure we're highlighting plants so that people can take them and see them in their own home gardens. We're actually bringing someone in to walk through this area with me and give me some ideas from a native plant nursery of what plants we can highlight that will do really well. It's an area that you might not know of. It's right behind the perennial border, and it was really overgrown when I got here. We fixed it up. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of volunteer hours making sure it's exactly how we want it. So we've checked out a couple areas of the TBG. One of my favorite gardens, and the one that has a lot of potential, is our perennial border. The grass is actually not in very good shape. We're actually looking to replace that in September, and it'll look a lot better at that point in time. But we've done quite a bit of work in the perennial border, thanks to our Gifts for the Garden campaign, where members and volunteers were able to donate to the garden, and it would go to specific items. So we had a really wonderful donation come in, specifically for perennials, for the perennial border. We removed a lot of the goldenrod that had been growing and really opened up some space. And what that's done is sort of allowed us to really capture that perennial border feel the way that it should be. This is an area that is not done yet. I think gardening is a constant evolving thing. You never get it right, you're always changing it, and that's actually one of the things I love about gardening. The perennial border, perennials are the heart of sort of what I love. I started in perennials, I worked in perennials at Plant World, worked with a lot of perennials at the city, and now I'm here where I can actually really sink my teeth into a formal perennial border. So when you're out, check it out. I know we've got a really tight and close relationship with the Master Gardeners of Toronto, and I'm really excited to see you guys in the garden here. Come up and say hello. I'm often out here. This is one of the new features that we're working with the Garden Club of Toronto. These are native seedling beds with a few small oak trees as well. So the idea behind these beds is that we're planting native species that we can grow and collect the seeds from to start for when we start doing ravine restorations and things like that. With our big exciting expansion coming up, this is something that's really important. Native plants, the importance of them, and education around them. So this garden is going to give us the opportunity to show people what we're doing with natives. We're in the terrace garden here at the Toronto Botanical Garden, and this is just adjacent to the perennial border. This is a really interesting garden. When I started out here in the spring, I wasn't sure. There were things about it I just didn't quite get. As the year has progressed and as the garden has progressed, I'm starting to see a lot of beauty in this garden. There's perennials, there's natives, there's shrubs, there's grasses. It's really a nice mixture, and a ton of pollinators use these gardens. We have our beehives at the back of the TBG, and everything that we plant, we keep that in mind. And I think it's really neat to see the connection between the bees, the butterflies, the birds. We've even got foxes. So it's really, you know, a great place to work. I'm really excited to be here. I think this has been an interesting time, but I'm really excited and I'm sinking my teeth in. The volunteers have been amazing. We have 45 volunteers a week that spend 4 hours in the garden with Dean and Benny, my two gardeners, and myself. So you'll start to see things really start to look good around here. We're in the knot garden. The knot garden's a really fascinating garden for me. I've never actually worked with one. Worked in a lot of different types of gardens, from the city to my own home gardens to places that I take care of. Right behind me is Only the Lonely Nicotiana. It's actually one of my favorites, and when I got here and saw the height of the hedge and I knew I wanted something above it, this one jumped out at me. You'll actually find it around the garden in a couple of places. It's such a neat annual. It smells amazing at night. So if you're ever taking a tour through the garden 7, 8 o'clock at night, you will definitely smell the fragrance. Fragrance is one of those things I love in my garden. My home garden, I've got roses, and I got the old varieties, Tropicana, Double Delight, the ones that really still have the fragrance. I think that's a really neat sense that we, in some cases, lose in the garden. So that's, you know, something I really enjoy about the garden. We've got, you know, irises around me. We're going to be doing a plant sale next spring, and a lot of these are going to end up in the plant sale. I think that's something new that we're working on in the TBG, is actually splitting some perennials here in the garden and offering them for sale at our plant sale and in our gift shop. One of the features at the TBG has always been these planters. Paul Zammit was really, really good at his planters, and I had big shoes to step into. Planters are also one of my favorite things. If you're ever wondering sort of what's happening at the TBG, I take a lot of photos of this place every single day, and I post them on my social media, my Facebook page as The Tattooed Gardener. I've got 9.8 million people that see my posts every month, and it's really starting to pick up traffic here in the garden. I think it's a great way for people to find out about this hidden gem. These planters, which I've done, are hummingbird magnets. Earlier, about a month ago, we had 26 photographers lined up here in the morning with their big lenses taking photos of what I like to think are my planters. It was really the hummingbirds. We're in the entry garden here. This is a garden that pretty much everybody walks through, and it's quite a feature in the garden. This garden was designed by Pete Udolph, and it got away. Pete's designs are a natural perennial garden. And what happened is a lot of the perennials ended up growing and spreading, and their seeds fell and they grew and they started choking out a lot of the material that was in the original design. So we've really spent a lot of time over the last month or two really trying to start recapturing those original drifts, the perennial drifts that were in the original design, and being true to that. Pete Udolph has a lot of gardens around the world, and to have one in Toronto I think is a really cool feature, and it's one that I think we need to sort of highlight more. So we've actually got donations through, again, that Gifts for the Garden campaign. to really purchase the perennials that have ended up getting choked out. So you'll see for the first time, you're starting to discover the drifts that are here again. This is really exciting for me. I think to be able to say I've worked on a Pied Rudolph planting is something that not everybody gets to say. The gardeners here feel the same way. There's not a lot of daylilies here yet. As some of you know me as a daylily guy, I do have 18 registrations. Here's one. Daylilies are pretty much wrapping up for the year. This is on a rebloom scape, so there will be more. I'm going to add some of my daylilies in here for sure. I just want to make sure I'm putting them in the right place and respecting the original plans and the original design. It's been my pleasure to spend some time with you at the TMG today, and I look forward to meeting you in January.
Yes, Paul, thank you so much for doing this for us. I know a lot of our members in the group have not met you, and we look forward to actually give tours in these beautiful gardens that you're working on. And we look forward to your talk in January. And in